Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare. Gopi Jana Ballava Giri Bharadhare. Gopi Jana Ballava Giri Bharadhare. Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana. Yamunatira Vanachare. Yamunatira Vanachare. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare. Gopi Jana Ballava Giri Bharadhare. Gopi Jana Ballava Giri Bharadhare. Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana. Yamunatira Vanachare. Yamunatira Vanachare. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare. Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada. Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai Vishnuvad, Paramahansa, Pariprakacharya, Status Srimad. His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki. ISKCON's founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki. Shri Radha Radhanath Ki. Sri Giri Govardhan Ki. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Ki. Sankirtan Yagya Ki. Go Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 24, chanting the song sung by Lord Shiva. And we are reading today verse 5. Antardano Nabasvatyam Havirdanam Avindata Ya Indram Ashva Hartaram Vidvan Api Na Jagnivan Antardano Nabasvatyam Havirdanam Avindata Ya Indram Ashva Hartaram Vidvamapi na Jagnivan Antardano Nabasvatyam Havirdanam Avindata Ya Indram Ashva Hartaram Vidvanapi na Jagnivan Antardano Nabasvatyam Havirdanam Avindata Ya Indram Ashva Hartaram Vidvanapi na Jagnivan. was a local phone number.
Yes.
They may be here making a delivery. Antardana, the king of the name Antardana, Nabasvatyam, unto his wife Nabasvati, Havirdanam, of the name Havirdana, Avindata, obtained, who, Indram, King Indra, Ashvahartaram, who was stealing the horse of his father, Vidvanapi, although he knew it, Najagnivan, did not kill. Translation: Maharaj Antardana had another wife named Nabasvati, and by her he was happy to beget another son named Havirdana. Since Maharaj Antardana was very liberal, he did not kill Indra while the demigod was stealing his father's horse at the sacrifice. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. It is understood from various scriptures and Puranas that the king of heaven, Indra, was very expert in stealing and kidnapping. He could steal anything without being visible to the proprietor, and he could kidnap anyone's wife without being detected. Once he raped the wife of Gautama Muni by using his disappearing art, and similarly by becoming invisible, he stole the horse of Maharaj Prithu. Although in human society such activities are considered abominable, the demigod Indra was not considered to be degraded by them. Although Antardana could understand that King Indra was stealing the horse from his father, he did not kill Indra, for he knew that if one who is very powerful sometimes commits an abominable act, it should be disregarded. In Bhagavad Gita chapter 9 verse 30, it is clearly stated, Apichet suduracharo bhajate mam ananyabhak sadureva samantavya samyagvya vasatohisa. Thus the Lord says that even if a devotee commits an abominable act, he should be considered a sadhu or a pious man because of his unflinching devotion to the Lord. The devotees of the Lord never willingly commit any sinful act, but sometimes they commit something abominable due to their previous habits. Such acts should not be taken very seriously, however, because the devotees of the Lord are very powerful, whether they're on the heavenly planets or on this planet. If by chance they commit something abominable, it should not be taken into account, but should be overlooked. Antardano nabasvatyam havirdanam avindata ya indramashvahartaram vidvanapi najagnivan. Maharaj Antardana had another wife named Nabasvati, and by her he was happy to beget another son named Havirdana. Since Maharaj Antardana was very liberal, he did not kill Indra while the demigod was stealing his father's horse at the sacrifice. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschitya Deshatarane Vanchkalpataribhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Well, this is a very sensitive type of point which could easily be misused, or you could say, well, misused, taken advantage of inappropriately, that, well, there's a little funny little saying. All people are equal, but some are more equal than others. Yeah, it means that, some people can get sort of special considerations applied to them which are not applied to others. And it's not necessarily just nepotism or something of that sort, just corruption and, something just simply wrong and immoral and impious, but it may actually be acceptable. It may factually be acceptable, even by the terms or in the terms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or you could say according to the actual laws. Like the laws of karma particularly would apply here. There's blatant theft going on, or was going on, was attempted. I imagine some of you, maybe all of you, are familiar with that whole event, that Lord Indra is Lord Indra, he's king of the heavenly planets, and another person can take that position, even possibly take the position from him, if they do certain things, and particularly if they do 100 horse sacrifices. A horse sacrifice is the biggest and most important and most effective of all the karma kandya types of religious activities or sacrifices. Yes. Of course, there's so many sacrifices, types of sacrifices which are performed. But it's the biggest one, Ashvamedha, the horse sacrifice. Ashva means horse. So if one does 100, then if one wants, not that automatically one would just become Lord Indra, just take over just like that. But if one wanted to, one could take the position of Lord Indra. But of course that position, that job is already taken. And so what to do? Well, this would sort of imply, get him kicked out and get yourself put in as Lord Indra. So the thing was at that situation, under those circumstances, well, at that time, I forget exactly when this incident happened, but it was in this, chapter 19, so 5 chapters ago or so. So, those of you who are following these classes, you would remember that. And it was quite an event that Lord Indra, seeing the situation, that Maharaj Prithu at that point had done 99 horse sacrifices, and now he's just getting things organized for the 100th. And he had everything organized, and the horse was there, which was going to be sacrificed. So Lord Indra became anxious, and fearful that, at least he expected that I am just now going to lose my position as Lord Indra, and I don't know what position I will end up in, but it will definitely not be as sort of beneficial and nice as my position now being actually Lord Indra. Because they don't have, like, what would you say, an old boys club, the previous Indras, and they're kind of respectable people. You're either Lord Indra or you're not. So what he did, he disguised himself. He actually disguised himself as a sannyasi, some type of sannyasi, not like a real Vaishnava sannyasi, but some type of sannyasi who presents himself in a particular type of appearance. Just for example, he had earrings, and some types of sannyasis may do that. Shri Shri Radha Radhanath Shri Giri Govardhan Shri Caitanya Mahaprabhu Ki Jai. Now, of course, we, our sannyasis, or say Vaishnav sannyasis, and certainly particularly within Prabhupada's ISKCON, we don't wear earrings, etc. In fact, one time, I was a brahmachari. Still, it was just shortly before I took sannyas. It was about 35 years ago or something like that. And I received an inheritance, which was not much, but it was an inheritance. I mean, not like your $1 million type inheritances, but I bought a nice pullover with it, and I bought the sort of tiger's tooth necklace and ornament which Lord Krishna is wearing today. And that was about the end of the inheritance, actually, so it wasn't a lot, but it's certainly better than nothing. Yes, and then there was a little left over, so I thought, devotees get these kavachas, the little, usually silver or silvery, little ornamental type of little containers, you know what I mean. And usually they put Vrindavan Das in them, or sometimes they get some miniature version of the Nishinga Kavacha printed out very small, and they roll it up and they slip that in and close it. So I thought, yes, I was not really the type, to tell you the truth. But this time I thought, why not do it? But do it nicely. So I got, in Vrindavan, I got a 22 karat gold little kavacha, just a very small one. And I came back here, I got a 9 karat, just a very little necklace type of thing, and I put it on, and I thought, that's nice. And it's nice because it's something very transcendental, and so to treat it nicely is good. However, His Holiness Giriraj Swami noticed that, and he made, I forget exactly what he said, but he made some comment like, brahmacharis and sannyasis do not wear gold, something to that effect. And so I took it off. And I don't know, I guess I gave it to someone. But that was the end of that sort of phase of my life, the kavacha wearing phase. Anyway, so, where was I? Yes, but here the thing is that when some people do things like what's mentioned here, what we read, stealing and even kidnapping someone else's wife, this is very extreme actually. And normally when people do something like that, they get punished. Yes, and obviously it's just natural they would be punished, even quite severely. And in fact, that happened to Lord Indra, because whether it was Gautama Muni or some husband of one lady who Lord Indra sort of interfered with in a very serious way, he didn't think as Antaradhan thought that, well, Lord Indra's a very special person and there's some special considerations, in terms of stealing the horse. And therefore we should just let it go and let him go. Whoever it was, whether it was Gautama, any of you remember if it was Gautama or who it was, but it was someone important who has the power to curse. So he didn't bother calling the cops or doing something like that. He just cursed him on the spot. And that because, you are so attached to the opposite sex, so on his body, Lord Indra has, I will not mention, but he has a whole lot of these things on his body now. So when people see him, it's just so blatantly obvious. They're reminded that he had, on some occasions, I don't know how many, but some occasions, plural, he had done such things. And he had to and has to, because as far as we know, he is still the Lord Indra. He has not been replaced. So even today, he's walking around in public with his body just covered in these things, and what can he do? All he can do is try and put some clothes over the top of them, but there's a limit to how much, you can't really hide it, particularly from people who know. But it's a very interesting point, and it's a very important point, and Srila Prabhupada quotes this verse, chapter 9, verse 30 of Bhagavad Gita, very famous verse, api chet suduracharo, that even if someone does, a devotee, does something which is, as the verse says, the Sanskrit says, sudur achar. Achar means activity. Just like Srila Prabhupada is our founder, Acharya. Our founder But acharya means who teaches by his achar, by his activity. All you have to do is watch him, and you'll learn basically everything. What it means to be a devotee and how to live and act, conduct oneself as a devotee, just by watching, even if he doesn't say anything. Of course, he said so many things, but even if he didn't, you could learn basically, practically everything, just by watching him performing his activities. So now, but this now, achar, sudur acharo. Dur achar, dur means very bad. Really very bad, dur achar. And su means very again. So it's very, very bad activity. It's not just something sort of, normal bad, if you would want to put it that way. It's really referring to something quite extreme. An interesting little point, Srila Ramanujacharya, great previous acharya, in the Sri Sampradaya, he has commented on Bhagavad Gita, translated and commented, and in his commentary on this verse, of course it's also in Sanskrit, but it translates that even if someone does something truly wicked, this is how it translates. Truly wicked means really, really something very extreme. But, bhajate mam ananya bhak, Krishna is speaking, if they're serving me, rendering service, bhajate, rendering service mam, to me, ananya bhak, just without interruption, then sadur eva, the person must be considered a sadhu, despite having done something exceedingly wicked. Exceedingly wicked is how he puts it, or sudur achar. Very, very bad. So this principle is being applied here. Prabhupada's applying this principle here to Lord Indra. He's not just some ordinary devotee. First thing, of course, is he is a devotee. He's definitely a devotee. But like every devotee, at least one could say, like every devotee other than the most elevated devotees who are just truly transcendental to anything to do with the material nature, other than them, and they're not common at all, but other than them, any and every devotee, although they are devotees, but previously they were something else. And you get a sort of, there are remnants left from the past. Yes. And in fact, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, I haven't got the thing on hand, but he makes the point in Harinam Chintamani, if I remember correctly, I think it's Harinam Chintamani, he makes the point that there are 4 types of, you could say, wrong things, which, or what people would or might consider to be wrong things in a devotee's character, not just character, but in a devotee's past. But if the person is really a devotee, then these things should be, not just should, but must be overlooked. And if they're not overlooked, then it is an offense to not overlook these things. And one of those things is that the devotee may have had a bad birth. Of course, this is a classic. It's not so much taken seriously nowadays, meaning in India, but definitely some time ago it was taken extremely seriously what your birth is. Yeah. And I mean, obviously in some places it still happens. Like if you're not Indian and you've tried to enter the Jagannath Puri temple, you would find out that they take birth extremely seriously. I'm just trying to look up these 4 things, but I don't know if I'll be able to find them. But one is if the person has a bad birth, or what could be considered a lower class type of birth. Yes, so then another is that a person is judged, even though the person is a devotee, but if the devotee, if there's some sort of like vague hangovers from previous sinful activity, like possibly speaking in a way, like kind of low-class way, using slang and even some what could be bad language. But actually the person is very sincere and very dedicated devotee. So then that must be overlooked. If it's not overlooked, then it is a major offense. It is really, here, look at this. I found it. Krishna revealed it. Here's the 4 kinds of blasphemy from Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Criticizing a devotee when one sees the last traces of the devotee's previous sins. Criticizing a devotee on the basis of their birth. Criticizing the devotee for an unpremeditated, accidental fall down or a momentary lapse. Or criticizing a devotee for his or her sinful activities prior to his surrendering to Lord Krishna. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that anyone, an offender, who does any 1, 2, 3, or all of these, but even just one, such an offender will never develop a taste for chanting the holy name. This is serious. It's extremely serious. So the situation here with Lord Indra is relevant, is related, and Prabhupada is specifically addressing it in these terms. It would appear so Prabhupada says, well, we read, the devotees of the Lord never willingly commit any sinful act, but sometimes they commit something abominable due to their previous habits. But such acts should not be taken very seriously. Yes, should be overlooked. Now, of course, to apply that is not so easy, because one needs to be on a high enough level of consciousness and awareness and knowledge and so on to be able to see when, if two devotees do the same wrong thing, like, well, in this case, steal. Two devotees may steal the same thing from different people, but they may steal the same thing. So, for one devotee, it would be necessary and it would be helpful to that devotee, stealer, if they are disciplined in some way, corrected, even strongly, for doing something like that. For someone else, like Lord Indra, right here specifically, that Antardan, one of the sons of King Prithu, so Prithu is an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Antardan is not just an ordinary person by any means. Very, very great devotee. Although the verse does say he was very liberal. Therefore he didn't kill Indra when Indra was stealing his father's horse, Prithu's horse, at the sacrifice. So in fact, one of the sons, maybe it was Antardan, but it looked like there was a decision to kill Indra because he'd done this on a number of occasions, stolen the horse. You know, you're not going to do 100 horse sacrifices because I'm going to keep stealing the horse. And I'm not going to stop until you stop trying to do the 100th sacrifice. And he wouldn't have stopped. He would not have stopped. He would have carried on. But actually what happened, and probably you remember, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, appeared. And he corrected the situation by saying, don't just stop this. Stop this idea of killing him. And Indra, you stop stealing the horses. And Prithu, you stop trying to do your 100th sacrifice. 99 is enough. And of course the thing is, and the point was made, that King Prithu, why would he want to become Lord Indra? It's like someone who's the temple president, and you say, look, we're offering you a promotion. You can stop being the temple president. You can be the pot washer or something like that. But some humble position, you can become the vegetable cutter-upper or something like that, or the person who cleans the temple. Yeah, it would be a demotion, like a real demotion. So for King Prithu, because he's a form of the Supreme Lord, to just take some, very material role like being Lord Indra, it would be a demotion. And therefore he was not going to do 100 horse sacrifices because he wanted to be so-called promoted to be Indra. He was just doing it. He was just doing it for the sake of the piety and the benefit, not just for himself, but the citizens. All the citizens. That's why he was doing it. He was not going for it. I'm going to become Lord Indra. I'll kick out this one and ha ha ha. that sort of idea at all. So when the Lord Vishnu told him, don't do the 100, stop trying, he immediately said, yes, no problem. For him, it was just no problem at all. Not like, oh no, I'm defeated, I've lost out. So, but anyway, the point Prabhupada makes is that, this point about previous habits, we all, unless you happen to be on the level full time of fully pure devotional service, then from time to time at the least, there will be something will come up from, like, old habits die hard. Some old habit will sort of bubble through the mind and come to the surface, at least momentarily. And that will be an impetus, if you're not careful, an impetus to do something wrong. But generally, as devotees, when that sort of thing happens, they're able to understand, oh, this is something, undesirable from my past, so I will just overlook it, I will not accept it, I will not act on that. And they just continue with their Krishna conscious activity. Lord Indra, he's an interesting mixture. He's a great devotee. He's not just an ordinary run-of-the-mill devotee, if there is such a thing. He is a very great devotee, but he has some bad conditioning from the past. And it comes out in the forms of sometimes stealing and sometimes becoming so attracted to a member of the opposite sex that even though she may be married, and he's also married himself, but he may just make some special plan to somehow or other just get that lady and engage in some sexual activity with her, which, as we mentioned, maybe it was with Gautama Muni, but it was with someone. He did that, and they did not consider, should we overlook it or not, or, because he is special after all. No, they just cursed him on the spot. And he ended up with this, sort of abominable situation. It's quite incredible in terms of his physical, not just appearance, but actually his body covered in all these things. Yes, so it's a sensitive and delicate point which, generally speaking, when we're dealing with our devotees, if a devotee, not that it happens often, but sometimes it definitely happens, if some devotee, even who has been a devotee long time, may just somehow do something which is truly really bad and which you cannot just overlook and just say, oh, don't worry about it and hope for the best. But generally, we will have to take some action. We will have the devotee community, the devotees, and the leadership will have to take some action to help the devotee become corrected so it doesn't happen again or doesn't start to become a habit. Yes. So anyway, these considerations are there in the general sense of Krishna consciousness in general. But in this particular type of situation, where you've got very elevated devotee, but somehow or other they still have these nasty things in the background which sometimes rear their ugly little heads. But in special cases, they may be overlooked or dealt with not in a way you might expect. or that others, lesser devotees, would need to be dealt with. Same thing applies with Lord Brahma. You're probably aware Lord Brahma chased his daughter. Yes, he chased his daughter. Same sort of idea. And I'm just reading now, it's in the 8th canto, what is it? Somebody. Oh yes, it's Lord Shiva in the story of the churning of the milk ocean. Eventually, the Supreme Personality of Godhead comes as Mohini Murti, the Supreme Lord, in the form of a woman, but means not any ordinary woman at all, like the actual supreme woman, literally the supreme, the most attractive woman. And Lord Shiva was present when that happened. And Mohini took the pot of nectar, gave it to the demigods. The demons didn't get any. It's a bit of a long story. But afterwards, Lord Shiva, who had been there and who witnessed or had heard about this, actually hadn't been present. But then the next chapter of the 8th canto, Lord Shiva asks Lord Vishnu, I heard about this, can you please show me this form? And Lord Vishnu does. And Lord Shiva, even though he is with Parvati, he goes running after Mohini. Yes. But then he realizes that, what am I doing? And he stops. And Lord Vishnu makes the point that actually you are a glorious person. Well, Mohini turns back into Lord Vishnu and says, you are an extraordinary person. You're a glorious person because you're able to forego all this, which is just not possible for anyone other than a totally liberated soul. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Any comments or questions? Not. Okay, that's fine. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. And Yashoda Rani Devi Dasi. Yashoda Rani, I didn't know that yesterday was your birthday. Tamagun, I just didn't know. I'm sorry, you didn't tell me. You came, but you didn't tell me. Nobody else told me. I just didn't know. But happy birthday yesterday. And thank you for the nice cake. It was actually very nice. Huh? Oh yeah, really nice, extremely. Hare Krishna.